When was the last time you stopped, looked at your life and asked yourself, is my anxiety just a symptom? Or is it a sign that I'm ignoring something I already know I need to change? Maybe you're here today because anxiety is with you all the time. That constant feeling of restlessness, that pressure in your chest that won't go away, and all you want is to escape it. But what if, instead of running away, you stopped and looked squarely at what's happening inside you? Anxiety isn't a monster to be defeated with force or ignorance, but something that emerges to show you that there's something unresolved, something that needs to be faced, something you've been avoiding. It could be a difficult truth to face, an unfulfilled desire, or a part of yourself that's been neglected. Have you ever noticed that when you try to silence your anxiety, it only seems to grow? It's like an internal alarm, something trying to wake you up to something bigger, but you can only hear that alarm when you stop, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what is it telling me? This, my friend, is the beginning of a path few are willing to follow. And that's why it's so difficult, because no one likes to face the discomfort of truth. Now, imagine if you stopped fighting it. What if, instead of ignoring it, you simply allowed yourself to listen? What are your mind, body, and soul trying to show you? Are you willing to look in the mirror and acknowledge that there's something inside you that needs to be transformed? Pause. Breathe. What have you been ignoring that's controlling you? What part of your life is out of balance, lacking the courage to take the first step? Pain is ever present in our lives, but there's a stark difference between the pain of growing up and the suffering of living paralyzed by anxiety. This difference may be the key to understanding what's happening to you right now. Have you ever felt lost, like you're stuck in a cycle of frustration and fear? Like you're living below your potential, like something's always missing but you can't quite put your finger on it? This is the pain of anxiety. It's not the pain of growth, where you're challenging yourself, learning, and expanding. It's the pain of being stuck, the pain of not living up to your potential. This is where most people go astray, because contrary to what society would have us believe, anxiety isn't just about chemical imbalances. It's actually a reflection of our inner self, a consequence of knowing we're living below our true potential, and this corrodes us from within, as if we're continually failing to fulfill what our soul desires most, without knowing how to change it. Sound familiar? Well, it's common, perhaps even universal. Most of us feel it at some point. The feeling of falling short of what we're capable of achieving, of being trapped in a place that isn't ours, but without the strength or clear direction on how to escape. Anxiety sets in here, because the discomfort of knowing that there could be more than this begins to weigh heavily. This is real suffering, the kind that comes not from a specific mistake, but from the realization that we're not living our truth. But why does this happen? Why, despite having every means to change, do we remain in this state of anxiety and discomfort? Because facing change requires a level of brutal self-honesty, and often we prefer to ignore this pain rather than deal with what it truly represents. We often try to find a quick fix, a temporary relief, something that makes us feel better so we can move on without facing the deeper reasons for our anxiety. But do you know what happens after that? It comes back, and over time, it comes back stronger, harder to ignore. This happens because anxiety isn't the problem itself. It's just a reflection of a deeper discomfort that still needs to be addressed. So don't ignore it anymore. Don't run from the pain of living below your potential. Instead of pushing this, feeling away, open yourself to it. Ask yourself, what am I doing to deny my own truth? Because only when you begin to confront these questions will anxiety begin to lose its power over you. The path to freedom begins here, in the pain you've been ignoring. And it's at this point that your journey to self-discovery truly begins. Jordan Peterson, one of today's most profound thinkers, reminds us that you don't run away from suffering. You choose the kind of suffering you're willing to endure. And herein lies the key to beginning to understand your anxiety. You may be running away from something, perhaps an unfulfilling job, or perhaps a relationship that no longer brings you happiness, or even the feeling of not being who you truly are. This is the suffering you're trying to avoid, the pain of confronting the reality that something needs to change. But Peterson warns us, by trying to avoid the suffering that comes from facing our difficulties head-on, we end up choosing another kind of suffering, the suffering of a life without purpose. The suffering of living in a constant state of dissatisfaction, of being in the wrong place with your life, unable to move forward. The real question isn't whether you feel pain. The question is, are you willing to choose a kind of suffering that makes you grow? Or will you continue to choose the suffering of doing nothing? The pain of change, of growth, may be uncomfortable, but it's what propels you toward something greater, toward something truer. This is what many people don't understand about anxiety. It's not the problem itself. It's actually a sign that you're at the limit of what you can bear without change. And the only way to free yourself from this emotional prison is to choose the pain of self-discovery, the pain of changing what's necessary to become the person you know you can be. This pain can be difficult, but it's a pain that leads you to a place of freedom, because in the end, you won't free yourself from anxiety by trying to feel better. You'll free yourself by facing what causes you anxiety and choosing the kind of suffering that will transform you into a stronger, more complete person. It's all too easy to fall into the trap of wanting to avoid pain at all costs. But the truth is, there's no path without pain. What you can control is choosing the pain you'll carry, and the pain that comes from a life lived with purpose, authenticity, and courage is the pain that brings growth, while the pain of paralyzing suffering of inaction will slowly consume you. Ask yourself, are you willing to choose the pain that will lead you to a better place? Or will you continue to postpone change and live in anxiety that only grows with time? It's here, at this decision point, that you begin to realize that anxiety isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to wake you up. It's saying, you can do more, you need more, and the only thing holding you back from being who you truly are is the fear of facing the pain of growing up. Now think about how you can begin to choose the pain that will transform you. What in your life needs to be confronted? What suffering have you been avoiding, but facing it can set you free? You've been taught to believe that feeling anxious is a sign of weakness. From a young age, we've been told we should be in control, strong and unfazed by challenges. Culture shapes us to believe that if we're not calm, balanced, and in control, we're failing in some way. Feeling anxious, then, becomes a sign that something is wrong with us. But what if, in fact, it's the other way around? What if your anxiety isn't a sign of weakness, but a sign that you're trying something new, something important? What if, instead of running away or repressing this feeling, you embrace it as an indication that you're about to do something big, something transformative? Let's look at this differently. Imagine that anxiety isn't the problem. The real problem is ignoring it, not listening to what it has to tell you. The problem is trying to drown ourselves in distractions, social media, work, or anything else that takes us away from the truth of how we're feeling. The problem is trying to deny that something needs to change, that you're in a place that doesn't belong, and that the only way forward is to step out of your comfort zone. When you feel anxious, it's because something in your life isn't aligned with your true essence. Something isn't right. And no, this doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're at a crucial point. It means you face an opportunity for change, but only if you have the courage to look within and face the root of your anxiety. Society makes us believe that anxiety is an illness, something we must eliminate at all costs. But in reality, it can be seen as a warning message, something you should listen to more closely. It's an indication that something is not right, and it is by listening to this signal that the process of healing and transformation begins. Have you ever wondered what your anxiety is trying to show you? Instead of fighting it, try taking a moment to reflect on what's happening. What is it trying to teach you? Maybe it's time to reevaluate how you're living, the choices you're making. Maybe it's time to face a fear, to make a change you've been putting off. Anxiety, then, is not an enemy. It's an alarm from your soul, something that's trying to tell you, hey, wake up. You're not living the life you were designed to live. It's time to confront what you've been avoiding. So, what are you going to do with this? Are you going to keep ignoring it? Or are you going to stop and listen? Anxiety isn't just mental, it's existential. And by saying this, I want you to understand that anxiety is much more than just a symptom of something wrong in your mind. Anxiety reflects a misalignment between who you are and what you're experiencing. It's a message from your inner self, from your deepest self, screaming at you to reconnect with your essence. Anxiety arises when you disconnect from your truth. When you start living according to others' expectations, or according to what you think you should be, instead of living according to who you truly are. Anxiety is a reflection of inauthenticity, and the pain you feel is not a consequence of what's happening outside of you, but of what you're ignoring within yourself. This is the turning point, the crucial moment when you begin to realize that anxiety is not an enemy, but an opportunity. It calls you to something much deeper. What have you been ignoring in your life? What part of your journey needs to be revisited? Anxiety arises when you stray from your true path, when you're not being true to who you truly are. Now you might be thinking, but how do I know what's true for me? How can I distinguish between what's truly necessary and what's just a momentary feeling? The answer lies in listening. You need to learn to hear your own voice, without external distractions, without the judgments others impose on you. When you start to truly listen to yourself, anxiety begins to lose its power. What is it trying to tell you? What have you been ignoring? Have you been allowing yourself to be who you truly are? Or have you been hiding behind masks, waiting for others to validate you? Or have you been hiding from yourself, afraid to face your deepest feelings? At this point in your journey, it's important to pause and take an honest look at your life. Examine the choices you've made. Are you living the life you truly desire? Or are you living a life imposed on you, whether by society, family, or even yourself, out of fear of change? Anxiety arises when we disconnect from our true essence, when the choices we make are not aligned with our deeper purpose. This is the moment of transformation. Now, you have a choice. You can continue to ignore your anxiety, trying to drown it out with temporary distractions, or you can allow yourself to listen to your own inner voice. It won't be easy. The path to self-discovery is challenging. It requires courage to face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, but the reward is a more authentic, truer life, more aligned with what truly matters. If this conversation has clarified anything within you, give back with whatever you can. A click, a subscription. It shows that it's worth continuing. Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to stop and hear what your soul is trying to tell you? Don't rush, because true transformation begins when you allow anxiety to be your guide, not your enemy. From this point on, anxiety becomes a tool. It guides you to where you need to go, where you need to look, where you need to grow. Jordan Peterson teaches that face the chaos, that's where your potential lies. And he's absolutely right. Anxiety often arises when we encounter chaos within ourselves, fear, insecurity, doubt, and instead of facing it, we try to escape. We try to create a controlled life, free from turbulence, free from discomfort. But the problem is that true peace doesn't come from escape. It comes from confronting it. You can't escape anxiety. You can try to distract yourself, get absorbed in work, lose yourself in social media, seek approval from others, but in the end, anxiety always returns. Because it's not the problem. The problem is what you're trying to avoid. The chaos within you, the chaos of your mind, the chaos of your unresolved emotions, the chaos of unfaced fears. And the more you avoid it, the more it grows, the more it consumes you. Peterson says that if you want to find your true potential, you need to go directly to the chaos. And I know that sounds scary, as if the only solution is to plunge into a black hole of emotional discomfort. But the truth is, by entering the chaos, you don't just deal with your fears, you transcend them. And this is where true transformation happens. Anxiety, fear, pain, they are not your enemies. They are your opportunity to grow, to go beyond where you are now. They are signs that something needs to be done. And if you have the courage to look within yourself and face them head-on, you will discover an inner strength you may never have realized. The strength of who you truly are, without masks, without lies, without fear. Have you ever thought about this? When was the last time you looked at anxiety and said, "I'm going to face you, not because I want to eliminate you, but because I know you're trying to show me something important"? When you choose to face chaos, you're not fighting it. You're allowing it to teach you. You're allowing it to lead you to a deeper, more authentic place within yourself. What have you been avoiding? What fears are controlling you? Maybe it's the fear of failure. Maybe it's the fear of not being good enough. Maybe you're afraid of losing control and not being able to handle the pain. But the truth is, The pain of not confronting is much stronger than the pain of confronting. The pain of living a life without purpose, without authenticity, is a constant suffering that corrodes the soul. When you step into the chaos, you begin to ask the hard questions. You begin to look at the parts of yourself that have been neglected, ignored for so long. And in doing so, you find the courage that has always been within you. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Facing chaos requires one very important thing: courage. But it's not a courage that comes from outside. It's not a courage you find in third-party advice or self-help books. It's a courage that comes from within, when you decide to no longer run from yourself. When you decide to look at your fears and say, "I will face you. I will no longer allow you to control my life." And as you do, anxiety begins to lose its grip on you. It will no longer be the voice that paralyzes you, but the flame that drives you. It becomes the force that will lead you to your true potential. You may even feel fear at first, but as you progress, you will be surprised by the strength you have within you. It is in this confrontation with the shadow that you find true freedom. Not freedom from fear, but freedom through fear. Not freedom to live a life without challenges, but freedom to be yourself, with all your challenges, with all your imperfections. And it is this freedom that will allow you to go beyond, transform your anxiety, and finally live the life you were meant to live. Anxiety is like a monster you pretend not to see. It's there, behind the door, in the shadows of your life, waiting for the right moment to come out and take over everything you love. But the more you ignore this monster, the more it grows. It feeds on your fear, your denial, your escape, and over time, it begins to invade every area of your life. What began as a small feeling of discomfort becomes an unstoppable force, affecting your decisions, your relationships, and even your health. You may even try to convince yourself it's not there. You may even pretend everything is under control, that you don't need to face it right now. But the truth is, this monster grows silently as you try to avoid confrontation. It begins to erode your dreams, your desires, even your very self-image. It infiltrates your choices, your actions, and eventually, it swallows you whole. And before you know it, you no longer know who you are or what you want. What you haven't realized until now is that the monster only has power because you choose to ignore it. It feeds on silence, fear, and inaction. But the moment you decide to face it head-on, the moment you decide to speak the truth about it, it begins to lose its power. It begins to wither, to disappear, because anxiety only has power when you run from it. When you decide to face it, it loses its hold on you. And that's why, instead of continuing to ignore the monster, you need to confront it before it grows too big. Because if you let it continue to grow, it will take over everything. It will become bigger than you, stronger than any strategy you can use to avoid suffering. It will consume every inch of your life until you realize you have nothing left to offer, nothing but an existence of fear and uncertainty. But here's the truth. The monster was never as big as you thought. It only seemed big because you weren't willing to see it. The moment you look at it, face your fears, and say, "I won't ignore you anymore," the monster shrinks. It loses its power. You begin to realize that what was controlling you wasn't the monster, but the fear of confronting it. Now the question is, will you continue to ignore this monster, or will you face it? Will you continue to allow anxiety to destroy everything you love, or will you take a courageous step and stop running? Remember, facing the monster doesn't mean it will disappear immediately. It won't be a magic solution, and it won't vanish overnight. But each time you decide to look at it, it will become smaller. Each time you confront your anxieties and insecurities, they will lose a little more power. And in the end, the monster will be defeated, not by strength, but by your courage to no longer hide. The battle against anxiety isn't an external struggle. It's not against what's outside of you. The battle is against what's inside you. Fear, doubt, and resentment. These are the monsters that keep you trapped, and the only way to defeat them is to face them. There's no other way. There's no shortcut. If you truly want to be free, if you truly want anxiety to lose its grip on your life, you need to stop pretending the monster doesn't exist. You need to look it in the eye, with all your strength, with all your courage, and say, I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm ready to face you no matter what. And maybe today is that day. The day you stop pretending everything is okay. The day you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I can't live like this anymore. I'm not going to hide anymore. You may be shaking right now, feeling that deep fear deep in your belly. The fear that you might not have the strength to change. The fear that it might be too late. And I understand that fear. It's real. But I want you to know something important. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite it. Courage is taking the first step, even with shaky legs. Courage is choosing to face it, even when you don't have all the answers. And maybe you don't have all the answers right now. Maybe you feel lost, like you don't know what the next step will be. But I want you to understand that it doesn't matter how small the step is. The important thing is that you start. The important thing is that instead of continuing to run away, you decide to move toward what you feared. You decide to embrace change and the pain that comes with it, because you know that on the other side lies true freedom. Today is the day to stop running away. Today is the day to stop hiding behind excuses, fear, and distractions. Today is the day to see anxiety not as a monster that will destroy you, but as a sign that you are ready to grow. You are ready to move forward, to evolve. You are ready to break out of stagnation and start living more authentically and truly. This is the turning point. The moment you stop waiting for things to change on their own and take control of your own life. It's the moment you decide to face your fears, to start moving, to take action, because change begins within you. And the first step is always the hardest, but it's also the most important. I know it may seem impossible. I know that when you look at the anxiety and fears you have, it can feel like a huge mountain, difficult to climb. But I want you to know, this mountain isn't as big as you think. It only seems big because you've never faced it head on. It only seems big because you've been avoiding taking the first step. But when you finally start climbing, you'll realize that the mountain isn't an obstacle, it's the path. And with each step you take, you'll see that you're stronger than you thought. Now I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. Imagine yourself in that turning point, when you finally decided to stop running and face what's holding you back. Imagine yourself taking action, even though you're afraid. Imagine yourself taking the first step toward change, knowing that even if the road ahead isn't easy, it's yours, and you're ready to walk it. This turning point is more than a simple adjustment in your mindset. It's the beginning of a profound transformation, one that will lead you to a place of authenticity and freedom. Anxiety, which once seemed uncontrollable, will begin to lose its power over you. And as you face your fears and step into the unknown, you'll realize you're more capable than you ever imagined. You're at the turning point now. You don't have to wait any longer. Change starts with you, with the first step you take. And that first step, however small, is what will lift you out of paralysis and lead you toward the life you truly desire. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. There are no shortcuts, no magic solutions. There's no secret formula for overcoming anxiety once and for all. But here's the truth. It will be true. And that's worth far more than any temporary relief you might find. True transformation doesn't come from ignoring challenges, hiding your fears, or pretending everything is fine when, in fact, you're struggling within yourself. It comes from choosing to face the pain, from looking at anxiety and saying, I will no longer let you control my life. I will use you as a tool to grow, to transform myself. Make no mistake, the journey will not be easy. There will be times when you'll want to give up. There will be days when you feel like you can't go on anymore. But in those moments, remember one thing. Anxiety isn't here to destroy you. It's here to lift you up, transform. It's the sign that you're on the edge of something bigger, something deeper, something that will make you stronger than you've ever been. Yes, you will experience moments of discomfort. You will have to face your deepest fears. You will have to confront the parts of your life you've been ignoring. But it is in this confrontation that true freedom lies. It is when you stop running, when you start walking toward the pain, not away from it, that transformation begins. And I want you to know, you have the strength to do this. No matter what you face so far, you have the ability to get up and move forward. Not because you're immune to fear or anxiety, but because you have something more powerful than that. Courage. Courage to face. Courage to continue. Courage to be who you really are, no matter what others or yourself thought you would be. This journey is yours. There's no rush. There's no need to rush to get to the end. What matters is that you start. What matters is that you take the first step. Even if you're trembling, even if you're not sure where it will lead, the path unfolds as you walk. And with each step you take toward what needs to be done, toward what you're afraid to face, you move closer and closer to the person you're destined to be. Transformation is not a magical event. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not an instantaneous cure, but an ongoing process. A process of confronting pain, moving through it, and in doing so, becoming stronger, truer. Transformation is the sum of the small steps you take, one at a time, every day. So don't be afraid to take the first step. Don't be afraid to begin, even if it's small, even if fear seems greater than courage. Every step you take toward your truth will weaken the hold anxiety has on you. Every step you take toward what you're afraid to face will transform you, will free you. Anxiety doesn't have to define who you are. You are not your anxiety. You are not your fears. And you is not what you've been trying to escape for so long. You are someone with the capacity to face, to grow, and to become stronger. Every time you face pain and anxiety, you are becoming the person you were designed to be. And one day, you will look back and realize that that fear, that anxiety, has become small compared to the strength you found within yourself. Jordan Peterson says, "You don't overcome anxiety by trying to feel better. You overcome it by becoming a better person, one step at a time, facing what needs to be faced, moving toward the truth." This phrase carries a profound truth that needs to be understood deep within. Anxiety won't magically disappear. You won't get rid of it just by trying to get better or looking for quick fixes. There's no magic pill that will make you feel better without first confronting what's behind the anxiety, the unresolved fears, the unaddressed issues. True overcoming of anxiety comes from something much more powerful: self-development. Overcoming happens when you decide to become someone better, someone stronger, not someone without fear, but someone who, despite fear, chooses to move forward. You choose to take a step, even if the ground beneath your feet is shaky. You choose to face the truth, even if it challenges you. Because deep down, you know, running away from anxiety, trying to feel better, is like running away from a storm. The storm will keep coming. It will keep building, until the point where you can no longer ignore it. The path to true peace, to true freedom, is not in ignoring fear, but in facing it head on, in looking at the storm and deciding that you will get through it, no matter what. I know it may seem impossible right now. You may look at what's in front of you and think, "I can't do this, I don't have the strength." But you have more strength than you realize. Strength doesn't come from being immune to fear or anxiety. It comes from choosing to move forward despite it, from deciding that yes, life is difficult and challenging, but you will live with purpose. You will live authentically. You will live truly. Because true transformation happens when you start doing the things you're most afraid of doing. When you start looking at the pain that's controlling you and decide it won't paralyze you anymore. Every time you face what's challenging you, you grow. Every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to the person you were created to be. So, make no mistake. There are no shortcuts. There is no magic. But at the same time, this is the greatest opportunity you have. Because you won't overcome anxiety just by trying to feel better. You'll overcome it by becoming someone better, someone braver, someone more authentic, someone who has the power to look at pain and say, "I will face this, because I know that on the other side is a stronger, truer, more complete version of me." This is true victory. And by achieving this, you begin to live a purposeful life, guided not by anxiety, but by your inner strength. And that's exactly what will set you free. If this resonated with you, share it. Because maybe someone you know is living on edge, waiting for this message. Maybe someone around you is feeling lost, isolated, and thinking that anxiety will define who they are forever. What if you could be the key to that person seeing the light? If the right words, at the right time, can save a life, then share it. Jordan Peterson reminds us of something crucial. The right words, at the right time, can save a life. And if you've made it this far, If you've resonated with every word in this video, then perhaps what you need to do now is look around and notice who else is silent, trying to fight their own anxieties. Because when you start talking about what truly matters, when you start touching a deep place in the soul, people start to listen. And perhaps what you share here will be the spark that awakens someone from the abyss they find themselves in. You are not alone on this journey. If you feel the need to take a courageous step, to move forward even when you're afraid, know that this decision is yours. No matter where you are or how far you feel from your purpose, the only thing that matters is that you take the first step. And by doing so, you can help others take their own. Sometimes all someone needs to change their life is someone who has stood up for themselves, who has faced their own monsters, to show them that it's possible. I know you're afraid. I know anxiety haunts you and sometimes makes you question whether it's worth moving forward. But I want you to know one important thing. Change starts with you, not with the circumstances around you, not with the support you have, even though it's crucial, but with your choice to act. Every small step counts. Every moment you decide to look within and take control of your own life makes all the difference. And if this resonated with you, share it, because maybe someone else needs to hear exactly what you just heard. You never know the impact you can have. One word could be all it takes for someone to begin their journey of transformation. And this transformation isn't an empty promise. It's possible, real, tangible, and all you need to do is take the first step.